Welcome to Grid Talk. My name is George Howson, and today we are here to review the 2025 Dutch Grand Prix. And we'll also be looking ahead to the Italian Grand Prix this coming weekend, too. Trying something a little different with this show, guys. But what hasn't changed is I've got two absolute legends of Grid Talk on the show with me today, Ruby Price
Hello.
and Tom Horrocks.
Hello.
So yeah, let's dive in with this race. An absolutely crucial one for the championship. There is no getting away from that fact because for the first time in a good while, one McLaren finished and the other one did not, Ruby. It looked as though McLaren were going to get that record equaling fifth 1-2 finish in a row. But it was not to be. Lando Norris smelled something a bit off in his car, and his instincts were absolutely correct. An engine failure. Mercedes engine going bang again this season, and this time for the first time for a McLaren.
Yeah, it certainly is, another highlight on that, worrying trend of Mercedes' infallible reliability once again starting to crack. Like, obviously, we're reaching the end of this particular era of the technical regulations, but this is not what we expect from that part of Mercedes at the very least. And yeah, it's had an impact on the championship as well, you know, until the lap that obviously Lando's car just went, no, not anymore. We were expecting a 16-point gap in that championship. It's now a 34-point difference, which is the biggest gap between the two that we've seen all season. And, Lando's not done anything wrong. He's just not been ahead of, Oscar, and he's been a bit unlucky in this racing scenario. But yeah, it would have been such a good, story for them to both have this no DNF affected championship, but it's Formula One that this is a risk that's always present, and unfortunately for Lando, it's struck. But there's still it's happened to one car that it could still happen to Oscar again this season.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure some doom and gloom merchants will be very much happy to write Lando Norris after this, but there is still a long way to go. 9 races still to go. It is a big gap in the championship, admittedly, Tom, but at the end of the day, there's still a long way to go. But, Piastri, credit to him, did everything right this weekend, got pole position by a very slim margin, was absolutely on it during the race as well. Norris, though, to his credit, he had to overcome Max Verstappen, obviously dropped behind him at the start of the race, overtook him round the outside, a really impressive overtaking manoeuvre early on to get P2 back. And in the closing stages, albeit assisted by a few safety car periods, he was catching Oscar Piastri. Whether he would have overtook him or not is another matter, but I think there would have been a battle between the two of them. And going off for his interview after the Grand Prix, it seemed as though Norris seems in relatively good spirits despite what happened today. So, what do you think about his prospects for the remainder of the season?
Well, I mean, as Ruby says, it's only got to happen to the other car. But look at it. When was the last time? I don't think Oscar Piastri has ever had a technical retirement in McLaren. I don't think he has. Or if he had, he didn't retire at all last season, and he hasn't this season. So if he has, it's very early on. So like he's not finished a race for what, something like 40 races now or something. So yes, he is due a retirement, but when is that going to stop? Like it's already a ridiculously long amount of time since his last retirement in a McLaren. And when you're up front, there's a lot less likely that kind of thing's going to happen. You saw the run that Max Verstappen was going on. You saw the run Lewis Hamilton were going on because they were only battling their teammates. And Max didn't really have a teammate to fight against. And Lewis's teammate was a lot bit more compliant. So and with this scenario, when the McLarens are fighting each other, they are fighting each other very respectfully. Apart from a couple of little tiny incidents, obviously we've got Canada and Austria that we can look at where that didn't quite pan out that way. But they were just honest mistakes from the drivers. They're not doing anything like Rosberg was doing with Hamilton, like missing a breaking point in Monaco to get pole, that kind of thing. We're not seeing any of those kind of tactics, so that's great to see. I think for the rest of the season, yeah, it's 3.78 points per race weekend, just off the top of my head. I haven't looked up on my spreadsheet at all, but so per race weekend, it's only basically 4 points. So like, yes, he's not out of it, and it's not even a mathematical scenario yet where we're just saying, oh, technically he's not out. It still can happen, obviously, and it's still completely in his hands as well. But the likelihood is getting slimmer now with this. And I can't see a situation where Lando will go on a 5-race winning streak without reply from Oscar. I can see him winning 5 out of the remaining 9 races. But I think Oscar is going to win 3 or 4 of them. And if that happens, then Oscar will be world champion. So he's definitely the favorite. I think he was slightly the favorite, Oscar, going into this weekend anyway, but he is definitely the favorite now. Lando was fast. Like he looked fast all weekend. And it's just this qualifying thing and the over commented thing about Lando's starts. If you look at his starts this season, he's making decent starts. I mean, okay, take Spa out. That was absolutely a terrible start. But the other ones, like you see, he's generally like he's missing out in qualifying. That's his problem. And then he's generally getting better starts than Oscar. But then because he can't do a do or dive effort because it's for a race win against your teammate, he's getting boxed in. And then Max, being Max, just so incredible at starts, is getting between them. Then the first phase of the race, he's having to worry about getting ahead of Max. And then it's then a recovery drive and a roll of the dice to try and get the win. I don't think he would have won today. I think if he'd have kept the position from Max at the start, he would have still just stayed behind Oscar because he's unflappable and there wasn't a big enough performance gap. But certainly it's a strong performance from Lando. Just the end there with the failure. I would hasten to say I wouldn't say for certain it's a guaranteed engine failure yet because he said oil leak on the radio. So let's not go blaming Mercedes yet, but we may well be blaming them afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, the important thing, unfortunately, for him is that he didn't finish. And you're right, there is. I mean, I said this in my review for my channel as well. I feel like if Piastri doesn't put a foot wrong for the rest of the season, which is very much easier said than done, but given how he's been this season, it's certainly possible. I think if he doesn't make a mistake, if there's no big engine penalties, if he's not took out by someone, I feel if he does what he needs to do, he'll win the championship now at this point because it's going to take 5 races of 1-2 finishes with Norris ahead of Piastri to catch him. And even then, only by 1 point. And that's a big ask. And I actually looked this up while you were speaking there, Tom. I had to furiously boot up Wikipedia for this. Piastri hasn't had a mechanical retirement, i.e., not collision damage, not crashing out and everything like that. He's not had a mechanical retirement since his debut race in Formula One. Bahrain Grand Prix 2023. He's scored points every single round this season. He's been in the top 4 except for his opening race of the season in Australia. And the last time he finished out of the points in a Grand Prix, the Miami Grand Prix of 2024. So he's on the hottest of hot streaks right now, to say the very least, in terms of just consistency as an absolute minimum. But we'll see how it goes. Long way still to go. As a McLaren fan, I'm absolutely loving it. I hope this doesn't define the championship battle between the two of them, but it might. It might well be the deciding factor. But possibly the biggest surprise today, with the exception, of course, of Lando Norris's engine going bang bang, unfortunately, it was Isaac Hadjar. He qualified in P4, Ruby, to hold it and not only do that, but improve upon it for his first podium of the season, the first podium for the Racing Bull outfit, the first time that outfit in any kind of guise has got a podium in 4 years, I do believe, since Gasly managed it in Baku in 21. What a result for him, and absolutely deserved as well. And such a redemption arc as well. Not even starting the first round of the season. Here he is in the top 3.
Yeah, he'd have ripped your hand off, if you'd offered him that P3 after that, formation lap crash in Melbourne. And absolutely worth mentioning as well, the 6th podium for the former Minardi team based out of Faenza, and putting Isaac among such names as Sebastian Vettel, Danny Kvyat, and Pierre Gasly. But yeah, there was never really any chance of him finishing higher unless there was a collision ahead. We were joking at one point in our Slack chat about him making a move on Max Verstappen and then getting fired over the radio before he's even out of the car, if that had been allowed to happen. But yeah, absolutely a brilliant race from Isaac Hadjar in Zandvoort today. Obviously it is difficult to pass at Zandvoort apart from turn 1, but he was braking later than Leclerc and Russell just to be in the prime track position going into turn 2 and turn 3 when they were trying to make their moves. And this was something he was saying in the cool down room, according to the broadcast footage at least. So, he was thinking about what to be doing. He was making proper mature racing driver, decisions and stuff on the fly. But yeah, I'd be worried about continuing this performance because he might get a demotion to the senior Red Bull team and then suffer the same fate as those who came before him. But yeah, Isaac Hadjar up to P10 now, level on points with Nico Hulkenberg, but of course he got his P3 first. But yeah, it's just brilliant to see, and I think after the recent poor run of results that he's had, at least relative to his teammate, this is exactly what Isaac's needed, and he'll be beaming for this next week, and maybe he can continue it going into Monza because the team have done well here before.
They have. They definitely have. Of course, Pierre Gasly getting a very famous win there in 2020 and Vettel back in 2008 as well. But yeah, it's such a strange situation you find yourself in where it's just like, I've won, but at what cost sort of thing if he does manage to get promoted to Red Bull. Because Sonoda, to be fair, scored points for once this weekend, but that car is I've said it many times, it's a bucking Bronco. It's just impossible to control unless you're called Max Verstappen or Franz Hermann. But yeah, incredible for Hajar to do that. Absolutely brilliant. And yeah, just when Liam Lawson looked like he might overtake him in the championship. Nope, nope. Got a long way still to go for that. And massive points for Racing Bulls as well in the constructors too, let's not forget. But yeah, let's talk about Max Verstappen. He managed to get P2 today, was looking set for P3 before Lando Norris's retirement. I mean, he gave it absolutely everything today in his home race, Tom. He tried the alternate strategy. He was starting on the softs at the start. He was on the softs at the finish as well, I do believe. He was just trying anything to go against the grain and hope for more rain to make it more awkward for the McLarens. It didn't quite materialize, unfortunately, but P2 in your home race, it's not bad, really, is it?
Well, it's matched his worst result on this track. So what's that? 3 wins and 2 second place. That ain't half bad, is it? No, he really, really tried to give the fans something to cheer about. Credit to like starting on the softs and then what with 4 restarts, or was it 3 or 4 restarts? I lost track. But yeah, just always being on the softer tire than the car in front. He was an absolute menace every restart. And it wasn't even just the turn 1 as well. It was like all through that first lap, he was always right there. And it was only the very first start, obviously, when that he was able to gain a position like that. And I think that was a bold strategy for somebody who said that they were targeting P3. Like, no way. I'm sorry. With that strategy, you were trying to get between the McLarens and do something and hope for rain and, that kind of thing. So he was definitely looking for more. But, P3 was going to be the consolation prize. If he was just looking for P3, he would have done what everyone else did ahead. And he had the pace to keep them behind him. But he really did compromise his race and with that strategy and was quite lucky that there were safety cars, I think, because that second restart, or the first restart rather, when he went onto the medium tires, he was never going to get them to the end. So he was baking in a 2-stop strategy there, or falling well away from the McLarens and then just defending into the end. So he was quite lucky that he was able to make that extra stop. But it's Max. Come on, he probably would have made it work anyway. He probably would have been on 50 lap old tires and still putting in a fastest lap. So. But I mean, championship wise, obviously, we know the championship is pretty much done. He needs 11, 12 points per weekend to catch. So that's not going to happen. And constructors championship wise, despite the double points finish, credit to Yuki, the double points finish for Red Bull, they still lost 5 points to McLaren. So they will be out of the constructors championship in Monza unless they comprehensively outscore them, which is insane. Like the championship we've been saying it's over for ages, but it is over. Like it's now 3 races away from being over, which is just insane with 9 races still to go. So absolutely anything. But yeah, they threw, for credit to Red Bull and Verstappen, they threw absolutely everything at the wall just to see what would stick. And in the end, yeah, fortunate with the Lando Norris failure. But yeah, it was fine. It all worked out in the end for them, despite, even if they'd have just gone with the standard strategy, they probably would have finished in the same place anyway. But you got to try this thing. Credit to him for trying it. He made a race of it today, and he gave the fans something to cheer about.
Yeah, absolutely did. I mean, yeah, the championship battle's over. We've known this for a long time, but he's just going to try and give as much momentum to the team heading into 2026 because it is, of course, an opportunity for absolutely everybody. So yeah, we'll see how that kind of all evolves. I'll stick with you here, Tom, as well, to talk about Ollie Behrman, a man that me and you have talked about a lot in recent times, and not in the best of terms because he's not been on the best run at all. He'd not scored points since, where was it? The Bahrain Grand Prix, an actual Grand Prix itself. Of course, he'd score points at the sprint in Belgium as well. But to get points today, after starting near enough at the back, he did what he did pretty much at Bahrain and China, just, kept his nose clean while all the chaos was raining around him and got his best result in Formula One to date, P6. He really needed that, as did Haas.
Yes, absolutely. You've pretty much read out all of my notes for his race there. but
You're
but yeah,
welcome.
no, absolutely. Yeah, it was. I'm just trying to look over to my spreadsheet see if I can say something different now. But yeah, no, brilliant from him. Like he's now level with Carlos Sainz. He's ahead of Carlos Sainz because I had to look this up as well because he actually has a better points finish than Carlos Sainz. Carlos Sainz's best finish has been an eighth place, which is crazy. Like I thought, Science has surely got a fifth place in there somewhere, or it's either an eighth or a ninth. I'm going to double check that because I can see you looking quite looking quite. That can't be right, surely. But yeah, eighth place is his best finish in a Grand Prix. So for Carlos Sainz, which is it's really weird to think that. So yeah, it was a great performance, and I think he had a really strong run to that position as well, starting from the pit lane, coming through. He made some good overtakes. He kept his nose clean. He kept his head as well when he had some faster cars behind him, and on those restarts as well. You know, when you got cars behind you with much younger tires than you, to keep his head through those as well. We saw what a menace Max was. Other people would have been doing the same, and he didn't want to lose a position. And he's really showing that he's got that pace there. I think he's got some real potential. He's got a lot of rough edges that still need to smooth out. He had a very good deputizing season last year where he came in 3 points finishes in his three appearances, and then the first race in a Haas didn't score points, but then went to score three in the next three races after that. You're thinking, yeah, this guy's here. And then he's had some bad errors. He's had some really bad errors, and really shown that he is still a rookie. People saying, "Oh, he's not a rookie. He's done three races." Guess off. He was still a rookie. He's still got those. He's still got all those rough edges to smooth out. So I'm glad that he's had a good performance here. There was some fortune attached to it, but what he needs is a strong qualifying, a good race, an error-free race where he just goes through and just banks a P7 or something without having to rely on a strategy. But really timely for Haas. I do fear that it's not going to make a lot of difference to Haas's season now. They're just going to be picking up those scraps. They're P9 in the championship. They've got more than double the points of Alpine now, which is just hilarious. But it's, I think it's going to be, I think it's going to be Williams, Aston, and Racing Bulls with Haas just and Sauber there. But then Haas will just going to be a little bit off that battle, I fear, because I think the other cars have got higher peaks. I can't see them getting back into that fight, but they might be able to make a fight of it with Racing Bulls potentially. And if Hadjar doesn't keep getting podiums, of course. But yeah, it's definitely a much needed result for Haas, even though they've lost ground in the championship with that result. So it was more of a stem the flow kind of result, but absolutely needed. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I think with Haas, they're going to struggle to score that many good points unless there's a crazy race like that we just saw today. I don't think on pure pace they're really going to be able to do much. That car just seems to fell off a little bit, unfortunately for them. But yeah, I wasn't aware of him overtaking Carlos Sainz. You are correct, he has. He was on level points, and that sixth place is enough on a countback to elevate him above him. Because as well, Carlos Sainz might have got points today, Ruby, but yeah, incident with Lawson, and he got a penalty for it as well. And I must admit, I haven't seen the view from Lawson's car, but the end result was that Sainz managed to get a 10-second penalty in addition to falling a lap behind, as did Lawson because of damage and because of a puncture to Lawson as well. Where do you sit on this incident? Because in the commentary, they were saying that that was an unfair penalty, but what do you think?
I mean, I said at the time that it happened that it looked like a racing incident, really, and kind of like more of a because of the fact that we had that safety car restart, but maybe with a bit more of the blame attributed to Lawson. But clearly the stewards disagreed because they've obviously given Carlos Sainz a 10-second time penalty. I've looked back at a replay of Carlos's on board, but I don't think there's been a broadcast of Liam's on board, and the gap's always going to close, so maybe that's why the stewards have placed the onus on Carlos to avoid that collision. But, from Carlos's on board, you can see Liam opens up the steering coming out the corner, and that's what puts him on a collision course with the already alongside Carlos Sainz. So it was almost inevitable that the two were going to come together without one of them backing out. But yeah, I think it's either a racing incident or slightly more on the side of Liam Lawson, at least from what I've seen. So right now, like I think the stewards have made the wrong call, and clearly Carlos did. He was threatening to go and see the stewards after the race on the radio, which did make for some very entertaining bit of radio footage. I'm just thinking of like the iconic picture of Michael Schumacher with his finger in his mouth, like as he's storming off, like down, I think the pit lane or something like that, or it's in front of a crowd. But regardless, I think the 10-second penalty that being applied is harsh in itself, given like obviously there was a bit more of like collision damage afterwards. Both cars seemed to be missing chunks of their car. Like there seemed to be a trend of drivers driving around without wheels on at one point, like from I think pretty much everybody who had an incident. But they finished P12 and 13 after the penalties applied. But I think it's such a shame for Carlos Sainz because he was having such a brilliant, strong weekend relative to where he's been performing this season so far, and maybe he would have been ahead of Liam Lawson and Liam Lawson, no, Oliver Behrman in the points had it not been for that incident. But yeah, I think the stewards made the wrong decision.
It does seem harsh. I mean, we've not seen all the evidence. Maybe there's something damning from Liam Lawson where he steers a bit left into it. We don't know because we've not seen it, unfortunately. I do find that so bizarre. In this day and age, we've got a million cameras. We've got a drone hovering above the track, giving us some of the sickest shots I've ever seen in Formula One, like Scalextrics looking shots. And yet we can't see the onboard from Liam Lawson's car. I'd find that bizarre. It's like, what are you trying to hide? I'm not saying they're trying to hide something, but why are you not showing us? I don't understand that. I don't get it. We've had it a few times in the past where certain angles haven't been available till like days after. And I just think, what are you doing? Are you sending it down to the photocopy shop or something? Like you get it developed on film? Like what's going on? I've no idea. But yeah, from what we've seen, it seems like a bizarre incident. And yeah, for the director of the GPDA to be saying that about the stewards, not a great look, obviously. But yeah, there we go. But yeah, bad one for Carlos Sainz, but a great one for his team overall. Of course, we're not mentioning Alex Albon managed to get a fifth place out of this weekend. Brilliant for him. But yeah, let's move on to another controversial incident. George Russell and Charles Leclerc during this one, Tom. A bit of argy-bargy, to put it very mildly. Leclerc was just like, I'm sending this down the outside, which became the inside for that little horseshoe kind of corner towards the back end of the track. Bit of contact between the pair of them, some questionable moves on the straight as well. A lot to really dissect in this one, to say the least.
Yeah, there is a lot to go through. I haven't had a chance to go back and really look through onboards and stuff with regards to this incident in particular, but yeah, from certainly initially, like the overtake looked phenomenal, the battle looked great, and then I think looking at it in hindsight now, from the one time I've seen it since, to me the overtake was borderline because it was very marginally either on or off track. We can't see for certain. He was all four wheels off the track at some point during that maneuver, but I don't know if I mean, there's no point investigating now because he retired from the race, so it doesn't matter. But then after that, the then defense on the main straight for me was right on the limit of, like, both of those incidents, if they'd have been slightly later, slightly wider, they're horrendous mistakes, and that could seriously cause an accident as well. And I think this is a bit of a trend we're seeing from Leclerc, where his defense can be a little bit over aggressive sometimes. Now, I'm going to caveat that I'm not absolutely offended by his race and calling for his head, because we want to see racing, and that was great racing to see, but he just needs to be aware that he is right on the edge there, right on the limit. And George Russell obviously was very unhappy about the damage that then came from that, and then the move, and then being told he had to let his teammate by because of all that. But in the end, allowing Antonelli to have a crack at Leclerc was probably the best thing for Russell's race, because it meant that he got him back up into that P4. So he should be thanking his stars that Leclerc came through and hit him there, because that actually guaranteed his result and got him up to that P4 that he was desperately trying to get from Isaac Hadjar. So no, good result there, obviously, for Russell there. And Ferrari are going to be, I'm sure we'll get onto Ferrari a bit later on, but given what race is coming up next. But yeah, it was not a good show from them today, and Leclerc as well. Like, he was very unhappy again with the team about what to do, and it just seems odd. Just very, yeah, the call to bring him in, I think that was it, wasn't it? It was the call to bring him in he was unhappy about, because he said he would have rather hold him off on the tyres. So yeah, all is not well in the Ferrari camp at the moment.
No, it is definitely not. I mean, we'll definitely get to Ferrari in the preview section at the end of the show. Yeah, double retirement for them today, unfortunately. But yeah, George Russell somehow managed to salvage a P4 out of all that. So in the end, it was all right for him. But yeah, he was very much, I can't remember who was having a go at saying, oh, moving under braking a little bit before that. And then obviously that happened. I'm like, oh, this radio's going to be gold. He's going to be absolutely livid at this. But yeah, borderline, to put it generously, for Charles Leclerc. We want to see drivers go for overtaking maneuvers. We don't want to see drivers knocking parts off each other's cars, but it's a very fine line, quite literally, when it comes to that. But yeah, let's talk about our driver of the day. I think this is probably going to go one way, but there were two main candidates in the Grid Talk vote today. But Ruby, who's your pick for the most impressive performance at the Dutch Grand Prix?
Well, I was gonna give it to Isaac Hadjar for most of the race, but then Behrman obviously started making moves left, right, and centre towards the end of trying to get his career best finish of P6. And obviously, the both of you have already waxed lyrical about Ollie Behrman already in this podcast. And, at the risk of repeating the talking points 3 times, granted, yeah, he was on softer tyres at one point. It's Zandvoort. It's tricky to overtake, yet there he was, getting past cars, and starting from the pit lane as well. I think it's an impressive performance from the youngster in a car that clearly isn't the best on the grid. And as Tom's already pointed out as well, aside from the British bias, he's had some, rookie errors as well, including Silverstone. So I think, this has been a very good drive from Oliver Behrman. And it's unfortunate that we're probably not going to see something similar unless we have a crazy race.
We'll just have to have a crazy race then, That's what we've got to do. It's got to happen.
Not?
Why not? Yeah, it's better that way. It's more fun. No, definitely. I mean, I think the two standout candidates for sure are Hadjar and Behrman, but are you going to make it one apiece, Tom?
Well, obviously, by my vote was for Ollie Behrman, but I always like to give someone else a bit of love. So I'll change it for the podcast just for this. And I'm going to say Alex Albon because he was further down. He had a great start and he muscled the car through, didn't make any mistakes and some really strong performance there from Alex Albon as well. So I'm going to switch it to Alex Albon to give Williams a bit of love in this part of the podcast.
That's absolutely fair. I mean, I'll just go for the easy option of Isaac, however you say his first name. Isaac, I don't know, whatever. Hadjar did a fantastic job today. He really did, And there were times when he was catching Max Verstappen, albeit Verstappen on much more older, softer, worn out tyres. Still, he held off Charles Leclerc, George Russell, people like that behind him. What was probably a much slower car. It really should have been a double point score for the Racing Bulls team today, but it was a podium for the first time in 4 years, and that's what matters there. An absolutely 5-star performance by that trio, without a doubt. And if you're enjoying this podcast, we'd love it if you could take 5 to leave us a 5-star review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Also, if you're listening and not currently subscribed to our YouTube channel, please head over there and consider subscribing to the channel. You can see when we go out next. And also, if you want some extra exclusive content, you can head over to our Patreon as well. More info on that at the end of the show. But yeah, let's focus a bit more on Monza next. Let's go and talk about Monza. Obviously, we've got the Italian Grand Prix. It's a back-to-back weekend to get us started again for the second half of the Formula One season. Rube, this is one of the oldest and most historic races on the Formula One calendar. But what are your main memories from magical Monza over the years?
Magical Monza, what a setup for Monza, absolutely. I mean, it's the temple of speed, but has it really produced good racing recently? I guess yes, to an extent, but there's been a tricky period, I think, during at least the ground effect era. I think last year really was the better of the Monza Grand Prix in that regard. But at the same time, thinking back, Danny Rick winning in 2021 after Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton had one of their infamous collisions where the Dutch driver mounted the British driver. Let's not focus on 2021 anymore. I can't deal with it. But obviously as well, the year before, Pierre Gasly being chased down by Carlos Sainz in the McLaren back in 2020 after Lewis Hamilton was given a 10-second stop-go penalty. There's a theme here. But yeah, and Ferrari, they've performed strongly here in front of the Tifosi since the change to the ground effect cars. But they've obviously got this 2025 Challenger, and I do not think they're going to live up to the hype. But, it was the location of Leclerc's first win back in 2019 with yet again more dodgy defending moves. And against Lewis Hamilton. I think it's just Lewis Hamilton that I just care about in Formula One. More British bias, yay!
No, clearly Hamilton's the problem here. He's the issue here, obviously. And I'm being very sarcastic for any Hamilton fans that are listening to this. I think he's won at Monza like 5 or 6 times or something. So he's had a few wins over the years as well. Not quite as many in recent times, but that kind of goes for him in general, unfortunately, in the ground effect era. But yeah, no, fantastic track. I call it the Magical Monza because it is also known as La Pista Magica. But yeah, some great examples there. And yeah, what do you think, Tom? What are your main memories from Monza over the years? Because it's been a fixture on the calendar every year except for 1980, something like that. It's been there every single year.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it predates the World Championship, so there's got to be. It was around nearly 30 years before the championship even started. If you want to go back to a Grand Prix win by a couple of Fiats, then you just got to go to Monza. So Yeah, it's just been around forever, and obviously it's changed a bit over the years. It's been made smaller, it's been made safer, blah blah blah, all the usual stuff. But still a classic venue, still should always be on the calendar in my mind. And one thing that just always sticks out in my mind with Monza is those crazy qualifying sessions. Just that time that Carlos Sainz was the only person to make his like, was it 2021, I think, or maybe 2020? Yeah, 2020, I think it was the only driver to make it to the start for the final lap in Q3 because everyone was trying to get a tow and forgetting that there was actually a timer that was ticking down quite quickly. It was very very weird, but yeah, I mean it's obviously it's there's so many races over the years that have just given some wonderful memories and so I can't even think of many off the top of my head at the moment, just because it's just I just think back to the years when I've been watching Formula One, and I just always remember Monza being a great race to watch. But I will agree that in recent years it's not really shown an awful lot in racing. It's only when something weird happens that changes things. Like was it when we have the safety cars and the late race restarts and McLaren getting their first win in forever was obviously in Monza as well. That was fantastic to see. Ferrari have obviously won there 21 times over the years, so obviously one of those predates the World Championship. But and they've most recently obviously winning last year, so I think they'll be strong. I think McLaren obviously won there a lot. Mercedes have won there. I think Hamilton's won here 5 times, so it's another strong one for him as well. So lots to look forward to, but maybe not for the team in red.
Yeah. I think they'll still unfortunately be kind of dining out on last year, really. But I'd always contest that, even as a diehard McLaren fan, I would always contest that a Ferrari win around Monza is special for the crowd. It just is. And if you don't feel that, then you got issues, man. Sorry, you just do, because there's so much emotion. Seeing them all on the track and everything, it's absolutely incredible. All the flares, all the smoke bombs, the Ferrari tifos and everything. It's just perfect, man. It's just, you can't lose it from the calendar. You can't. Don't even think about it, Stefano. You're Italian. Save it, keep it safe. It's meant to be safe for the for the next few years or so, since they redeveloped the pits and all that, so hopefully, fingers crossed, they keep it, and it's going to be the only Italian round next year, as you guys have pointed out in the little chat we've got here too. But looking further back, some races that really stand out to me: 1989, obviously. Sorry, 1988. There we go. The only race that McLaren didn't win that season. Ferrari won two. The first race after Enzo Ferrari passed away. It was just written in the stars. It just had to happen. 99, I think Hakkinen had his spin out from the lead. Michael Schumacher matched Senna's record for wins and did that very emotional press conference in the year 2000. Vettel getting his first win. The first win for a Red Bull branded car in the Toro Rosso in 2008. There's been so many examples. There's just some fantastic battles over the years, and I'm hoping to see more of that. Whoever wins doesn't really matter to me, I just want to see good battling and good racing around the Templar speed. That's all we want. And the home hero, Ruby, he needs a good weekend. We've not really spoke about him too much, but he did, of course, crash out during the Dutch Grand Prix. He's on a long, kind of pointless streak at the moment in Formula One. His teammate George Russell is still bringing home the bacon, still getting good points finishes. Even when he looked destined to get a good points finish at the Netherlands, didn't happen, and it was his own mistake. So he really needs a good home race this weekend.
Yes, he certainly does. I mean, boy oh boy, what do we really say about Kimi at this point? Because yeah, he was in need of a good result to, get himself some confidence this weekend. And as you say, he looked like he was up there. He was ahead of his teammate, but obviously, in fairness, he was let by due to having damage on the car. But that unfortunate move on Charles Leclerc, whilst, just coming out of the pits ahead of him, landed him that 10-second penalty. Kimi's taken the blame for it. I wasn't really sure going into it, but, it's clearly, I think, a Kimi incident, and Tom has already discussed that incident as well. But, followed it up with speeding in the pit lane, possibly due to the missing tyre that he had. And as I mentioned, a very worrying trend about this race in Zandvoort. But yeah, he's only scored the 1 point since that podium in Canada. And you can just feel the pressure mounting on the 19-year-old shoulders. He's already had that one home race at Imola where, again, the pressure got to him. So I think really the worst thing for Kimi Antonelli right now would be to have the added pressure of another home race literally the next week. Wait, oh, that's what's coming up next. Yeah, I can't see Kimi Antonelli, really having the best weekend coming up ahead. And I know Tom will be keeping his fingers crossed that he at least finishes ahead of Alex Albon because they are now level on points. And if you're a monkey seat fan like I am, you'll know exactly what kind of repercussions that will have if Kimi Antonelli is not in P8 at the end of the season.
Yeah, unfortunately, Tom would very literally be exposed in that scenario. But me and Ruby feel that pain. We've been there before. Just crank the heating up, angle the camera just a little bit above where you normally do. It's all good. It'll all be fine. But
Yeah, selective camera angles, your best friend if you get involved in an F1 bet, regardless.
And obviously, we do implore that you bet responsibly when it comes to this. When the fun stops, stop. But anyway, is the fun going to start for Ferrari this weekend, Tom? A double retirement at the Dutch Grand Prix, the worst possible preparation. Just when you thought things, in a sense, couldn't get any worse after the Hungarian Grand Prix. It looked so promising in qualifying for Charles Leclerc. Last stint, the thing basically died on him. And then obviously we have a double retirement at the Dutch Grand Prix, just all the preparation, all those 4 weeks of hard work, it just seems to have gone in the bin. But can they rescue it at the home race this weekend?
I'm not confident. I feel like at high speed that Ferrari does not seem safe with regards to the plank wear. And I know there's not a huge amount of high speed cornering, obviously, apart from the obvious on Monza, they've got like 4 corners anyway. But there's a huge amount of time at full throttle, so there's not as much pressure going through the car. Now, Ferrari do always bring a Monza special. So if that Monza special does take the underside plank wear into account, and they're able to bring something specific to Monza that isn't going to get them disqualified after the race, then there may be something. But I think the most important thing for Ferrari, we all know what Charles Leclerc can do. Like he's won this race twice for Ferrari. He's clearly a huge talent in Formula One and prodigal son of that team. What they need is their 7-time world champion to perform in Monza in front of the Tifosi. That needs to happen. If he doesn't have a good race, I think he's going to start to lose the fan base, and then with that comes pressure. And then what would be worse than seeing statistically one of the greatest or the greatest driver in Formula One history dumped out of Formula One for poor performance in a Ferrari? That would be a really bad look. So I think for Formula One, he needs to have a good performance. And I think this weekend he showed that he was close to Leclerc. He was ahead of him in qualifying right up until the end of qualifying. Same situation as Lando Norris. He looked like the better driver all the way through qualifying, and then right at the end he just didn't have that last half a tenth. So if he can be in the same ballpark as Charles Leclerc, be racing with him on track and not have anything happen, then I think that's fine. As long as he can prove that he's in there, he can be up there fighting for the podium, at least give them something to cheer about, because they're not going to be cheering for like an 8th place or anything like that. But my biggest concern at the moment, I don't know if anything's happening with that investigation for the before the race, driving to the grid. I know it was going to be investigated after the race. Now, given that he didn't take part for very long in the race, didn't finish the race, that could be a grid drop, which would be a really bad start to the weekend for him, having to start from further back. That's not what he needs. I think a clean slate coming into the weekend is exactly what he needs. So yeah, I think it's going to be a difficult weekend for Ferrari. I think they can maybe keep mixing it in there with the Mercedes and the Red Bull, but I mean, they're going to be out of the Constructors' Championship come this weekend, so pretty much anyway. So it's going to be difficult. I can't see them. I don't think it's going to be a repeat of last year anyway, put it that way.
No, I'd be shocked. I mean, McLaren have taken so many steps forward in that time, and Ferrari have arguably taken a few backwards ones. I do believe, I don't know if it's still the case, but I know they were talking about that McLaren could officially mathematically win the Constructors' Championship at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Now, that was before Lando Norris retired, but I think they still probably can. I mean, we've said it before, it's done. I mean, the gap is just ridiculous. But man, imagine if Sir Lewis, imagine if he gets his first Grand Prix podium in a Ferrari at Monza. It could happen. It could happen. Stranger things have happened. But will it happen? Let's give our predictions, guys. Let's try and figure out what's going to happen this weekend for the Italian Grand Prix. I want to hear your pole prediction, your top 3, and a bold prediction as always. Ruby, what are you thinking?
Pole position, I'm going to go Oscar Piastri. I think, he's had a good weekend. He got that pole position on Saturday in Zandvoort, and I think he's probably in the prime position to continue that through in Monza this weekend coming up. In terms of the podium and winner, I think Oscar's going to maintain that lead. I think he's going to finish P1. I'd like to see Lando on the podium, as a follow up from obviously the heartbreak of, Zandvoort, so maybe P2. And screw it, P3 Charles Leclerc. There's going to be a Tifosi celebration on that podium. It could be a bit bold, you might say, but guess what? Here's my bold prediction. Lance Stroll makes it back to back to back P7s after Hungary and Zandvoort, and he will once again be ahead of Fernando Alonso. Just to mention that once again, Lance Stroll finished ahead of Fernando Alonso in Zandvoort today.
Yeah, and he's still ahead of him in the championship despite Stroll crashing out twice during the weekend. But hey, he made it work. He performed when it counted, and yeah, Alonso was not a happy bunny during the Dutch Grand Prix. Just saying, you always send me out in traffic. What are you doing? Like, he just loves insulting his own team. I mean, that's not like Alonso creating toxic environment in the workplace, is it? No, he's never done that before his other teams, allegedly. Anyway, Tom, what's your predictions for the Italian Grand Prix?
So I feel like I should do two. And the reason I'm saying this is because Louis will say that I have to give my predictions now. So my predictions, as far as Louis is concerned, are going to be Oscar Piastri pole position, Oscar Piastri win, Lando Norris second place, Max Verstappen third. Why would we do anything else but that? Because let's be honest, if I want to be fighting in this prediction league championship, you just go for that. Come on, let's be honest. Right, but my actual ones, I think obviously McLaren are going to be the faster team, and Lando Norris has been so close to an Italian Grand Prix win before. But I am going to say pole position for Lando Norris, and he's going to win the race. There you go. I'm manifesting it into existence. I love doing that with an Oscar Piastri second place and a podium for one Mr. Carlos Sainz, Williams P3. Because Williams always run well at Italy. I got a feeling something's going to happen. The other three teams are not exactly right on the tail of McLaren. It's so tight in there. Carlos Sainz P3. That's my prediction. But not if you're Louis.
So just to get this clear, just to make Formula One even more complicated, we've got a prediction A and a prediction B almost at this point. Like, what's going on, man?
This is the sprint category for our predictions league.
Official and unofficial predictions from Tom Horrox there on the show. Well, I'll just give one set of predictions. I'll be boring like that. I'll go with, I mean, my head's telling me Piastri, but I feel like Norris is going to come back. I feel like he's going to be coming back and fighting. But I am going to go with Piastri for pole, although I will go with Lando Norris to get the win during the Grand Prix. Piastri in second place, and third, let's do it. Let's be a romantic. Hamilton. Doing it. I don't think it's likely, but I'm doing it. I don't care. I've got to go with McLaren 1-2 at least, but yeah, the third place is almost like a wild card at this point. But the wildest of wild cards, after his best finish in Formula One this season for Alpine, just one place outside of the top 10, Franco Colapinto in the points. Come on, let's make it happen. We could get another crazy race in Monza, but yeah, unlikely, I do think, but yeah. Those are our predictions, guys. If you want to stay in contact with Grid Talk, you can also head over to our socials, which Ruby will go through now.
Yeah, if you want to find Grid Talk on socials, we are at Grid Talk UK on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky. Our YouTube channel is at Grid Talk UK as well. And I'm also going to give a shout out to our new and improved merch store where you can get yourself some t-shirts, some really comfy hoodies, some mugs. There's going to be more designs being added to that as soon as I have some creative energy in my brain. But we've got some things going back, some Grid Talk in-jokes like Sauber waiting for the Audi money. We've got a Wayne watching endurance racing that he will never shut up about. And, I'm looking forward to seeing a lot more of that. So if you want some affordable F1 related merch, because let's face it, there's not a lot of that, head over to Grid Talk and the links are in the description.
Yeah, definitely going to make a visit to that. I do love this shirt, but it's had its service. It may need to be retired now to get some of that new fresh merch on there, because not going to lie, it's really good. It's really good. So do check it out, guys. We really appreciate that. Tom, we've given a few references to the monkey seat through this show. What is that? Where can people find it? And how spicy is it going to get?
So yeah, if you want to see me at the end of the season taking my clothes off, then yeah, look out for the monkey seat. Basically, yeah, it's myself and Carl. We just whenever we get time, so no pressure or anything. We didn't do a podcast for the Hungarian Grand Prix, which is a real shame. We've had 4 weeks to do one. We haven't had time. But yeah, we should be doing one this week. Basically, it's just us having a laugh and talking about Formula One and being a lot less professional than everyone over at Grid Talk. So if you want a much more, we don't have to mute when we're not talking. Basically, that's that's Monkey Seat. So yeah, just come along and check us out wherever you find podcasts. Just search for Monkey Seat Podcast. You should see us.
Grid Talk's dirty cousin, whatever the reference is, it usually is. That's just basically what it is. It's definitely going to get dirty at the end of the season, one way or another. Someone is going to be scantily clad during the podcast because of the results of this season. But yeah, if you guys want to support us some more, obviously did mention some of the socials before. We're also available on YouTube as well as Amazon Fire, Spotify, Apple Music, Verbal, and Pocket Cast. Just search for F Grid Talk on any of those. See our big back catalogue of shows with previews and reactions to the race results. Thank you to Jared, Bradley, and Holly Eagle for supporting us on Patreon as well. If you want to support the show further, do head over there. Some cool member benefits on there, including things like Beyond the Grid Talk, exclusive podcasts, and everything else in between. So really appreciate that, guys. And yeah, thank you very much for listening or watching the Grid Talk podcast. Have a great day, and we'll see you very soon. Goodbye.